forecast for Tuesday, 13th of April 2021. A warm welcome to all of our friends, fans, community members, participants, squad mates and viewers worldwide on various platforms. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being our dedicated community members. As always, I'm very grateful to everyone who did take time to write. I keep receiving at least a few messages per day, which is wonderful considering that this podcast has been in circulation for only a few weeks, and we've had an overwhelming response, and very glad to see that people are enjoying the content, following the threads and responding to all of our tips, tricks and ideas. A very nice spring, but yet I have to say a slightly nippy day here in London suburbs. We are enjoying a bout of cold weather, very high atmosphere, beautiful clear skies, wonderful days for lengthy strolls in our nature reserve, local parks, just being out. And as you know, yesterday we began with the downsizing of our lockdown in view of the figures, in view of the vaccination program. So evidently many more people were up and about, and particularly on Monday, yesterday, where in fact lots of people just raced to local bars, pubs, restaurants in order to eat outside, socialize, and most importantly get their haircuts done, because our barbers were literally shut for more than 4 months, I think. Now we only had a window of about 3 months during the summer, going towards the autumn, that the barbers were really properly operating, and I have 5 months of hair on me, so I've gone to mine, and I said, I'll come probably towards the end of the week after you thinned out somewhat, because the first couple of days would be obviously the busiest for them. So I'm due to have a haircut. It's a very lengthy hair. I hate long hair. I always wear a military style crew cut. But this has been just the same for everyone, inclusive our Prime Minister and some of the politicians, as you've seen. And a very difficult period. But hopefully, with this vaccination program being so successful and a drop of around 90% on the number of cases, we have the best situation in Europe at present. And we can be proud with the achievement. Honestly, I think being in a position where we've had some of the worst figures in the world, and then turning this around with the phenomenal way to which the vaccination program, its infrastructure and everything else was organized by comprising all of those different services together, plus volunteers, plus additional workers, co-workers and volunteers, being able to deliver up to 500,000 vaccines a day has been really an astonishing achievement, and I don't think we ever had that sort of thing on display with that degree of unity and speed in our national history. So that is something to be cherished, to be respected, and indeed we are to be looking forward to the end of this dreadful pandemic, and hopefully with the vaccine that we've got, as well as the new ones, which certainly will be made and experimented with to a degree, I should say tailored to the needs, we are likely to be taking the upper hand, and we are all really eagerly waiting for that to come. Can't come soon enough. In any, if you look at it from any angle, be it from the point of view of somebody who's a local trader, an elderly person being stuck indoors, people shielding, lots of people not being able to go to work, no commuting. Our life has been completely turned on its head, and I've got to say, what surprised me was that yesterday, although we appeared to be fairly busy during the day, we've had absolutely no activity at night. It was as quiet as you would have had it during the lockdown. So I wonder whether the actual lengthy lockdown and its measures did have an impact on the mindset of particularly younger people who go out at night, and remains to be seen, because I live in the town centre, and I obviously do come across all these activities very frequently, and it's been a great experience to have really quiet nights. You cannot hear absolutely no one, and there was a period in, I think, April and May, where even foxes and rabbits would come out of our forest and they would sleep on our local roads because there were no cars, no people, and everything was absolutely dead quiet throughout not just the night, but already after 7 o'clock p.m. to about 8, 9 in the morning. There was literally not a living soul, human being, or any other creature in sight. So anyway, so that's the way it is at the moment. I've gone out quite a bit, really. Enjoyed some sunshine and enjoyed daylight, which I've been lacking certainly for a good 6 months. And I've got to say, I've taken some wonderful photographs of our local areas in the nature reserve. Also, when I walk to the neighbouring town, there's some absolutely fantastic picturesque picture postcard types of spots. And I have a Sony Xperia 5 II that has an amazing camera, I have to say. I mean, worked as a photographer a while back, and what you can do on these high-tech 4K cameras today with 3 lenses within one very small, very tiny Android handset is just simply mind-boggling. I can't understand as to why this is possible, and as to why we can be, having access to everything with such ease. In addition to 3 lenses and phenomenal quality of the camera, that is basically an integral part of this phone, we also get 2 separate lots of software through which you can really make a feature film. You can first of all shoot the film, and you can use the software, and then after that you use the editing tools, which are there, the professional tools that are being commonly used for the makings of feature films. And obviously you will need some additional external devices, such as mega external hard drives and maybe a very good high quality television screen and so, but you can't do everything by yourself. I mean, think about the equipment you required for that even 5 years ago. And I mean, obviously I'm familiar with the sums and figures, and you previously would have paid 50, 100,000 pounds for everything that you get together for free, in fact, within the phone, if you are acquiring it through your operator. So really mind-boggling, and I'm very pleased with the photographs I've had. I'm primarily a portrait photographer. I don't really take pictures of landscapes, but ever since I moved back to my home county, I did take a lot of photographs of beautiful scenic spots, and they look incredible. I mean, they're just so soothing to look at. And also what's phenomenal is when you look at some of the photographs which were taken against the light. Usually with low quality cameras or the old gen cameras, there was a serious problem in detecting the detail, and you just have like a one big blur because you were filming against the rays of light that were coming from the sun and directly into the lens. And this is just something literally confined to oblivion. No longer do you have this problem. The photographs which are taken like this look incredible, and I've done quite a few of these in our local forest and various other places with lots of trees, so you can position your camera in a way that the sun is just behind a tree illuminating all the lights, and it is just fantastic. So I think the future for content creators is going to be very, very bright. I can't believe that we are getting, let me just see, hackers coming in all the time, trying to sell products, trying to offer subscribers and God knows what. I just had a message from the moderators, and they said that there was somebody trying to get in. I think they blocked him, but I did see one message kind of filtering through, which is definitely not something I want to have here on my channel. Right, so I'll tell you a bit more about the rules and everything else in a moment, but coming back to my point about content creators, I mean, I'm a person who's been involved with creative industries in various capacities, from boys side of the counter, as we'd say, because I worked within the health profession as a senior mental health professional for many decades, and I also was an active participant on the scene as a photographer and person who was involved with music and film industry, and filmmaker. In fact, I did make some films a little while back and would have taken a few million photographs, so I have a lot of experience of that under my belt. And as somebody who's been using the old gen cameras, the cameras that were obviously shooting on 35mm film, 36 to I think it was 32 to 36 pictures per reel, and just migrating later to digital cameras and then SD cards and digital drives and infinite memory. It's just, I remember always a discussion I had with Kevin Cummins, who is a very well-known music photographer, and he captured the music scene from the mid-70s to, I'd say, the late 90s, early noughties beautifully, and he was the house photographer for the NME, various venues, and had a very good relationship with many well-known British rock bands. Most notably, he documented the works of Joy Division New Order really perfectly right from the beginning, because he knew the lads and he knew the manager. And I remember discussing this with him, and he said in the old days hardly any people had cameras to start with. In the 70s, cameras were really expensive, and he said I was just very privileged to have acquired a camera, I think through some sort of family connection, and I was just the only one. So if you had a camera, if you appeared to be up there with others, going to watch a gig, don't forget in the 70s we didn't have the industry as well developed as today, with security, with pits and all that, just non-existent. Like one stage, 2 spotlights, musicians up, and you would have a photographer there in the crowd who was literally moshing with all the rest of the fans. And believe you me, people are not that well behaved in those days, according to what they said. Obviously I was in my infancy at that time, so I couldn't tell you exactly, but from what I gathered through those descriptions. And there was also an unconditioned, unrestricted sales of drinks, and people who were underage were also present at some events, and the story just got on and on. Basically, he said, you had the camera, you'd walk in, and suddenly every musician in the world would want to talk to you because they knew you had a camera and you can take photographs, and therefore these photographs could somehow get to some of the magazines. So he became a content creator instantly, straight away, and there was a huge demand for his services, and he really said, well, have like 1 or 2 reels of film, and when you are taking snapshots on film and old gen cameras, you need to be really well versed on how to use the exposure and the shutter speed and everything else, because people are moving on stage, and you need to have high contrast, very, very fast exposure type film, and from, let's say, 3 films you would get probably a dozen good photographs. So think about it, that was almost 100 photographs, and amongst those there'd be probably 1 dozen, maybe a dozen and a half, depending on the skill of the photographer, depending on lighting, various other things. And then that was substituted with the camera. You can have your SD card in there, and you would take several thousand images with ease at any other time, and there would be also different quality. The light meters and the way the images were captured digitally was completely different. So the change was most remarkable, because at the time, in the early 70s, mid 70s, when he began to work in full, it was on one hand very easy to become a content creator. On the other hand, it was very difficult to maintain the status, because you had to be excelling. And you would have seen with those grainy black and white photographs of that era, they really did display the photographer's skill. Think of Benny Smith, think of Kevin Cummins, Anton Corbijn, just to name a few. They're absolutely astonishing, and considering what restrictions they worked under and what constraints with the actual technology, the skill, the knowledge and experience is on display almost on every single photograph that you see of theirs, and they've got like a signature. You tell straight away. If you compare these 3 guys, Corbijn, Smith, and well, I should say 2 guys and a lady, Smith, Corbijn and Cummins, you immediately can tell that this photograph belonged to one of them because of the style. Coming back to content creation, I'm personally in awe of all of these developments, and I think it is truly wonderful to see millions of people worldwide now becoming involved with what is seen as content creation on Twitch and YouTube. It's down to each individual. They need the tech, they need the internet connection, and they can create their content. And the multitude of different ideas, costumes, styles, types of content on display is just absolutely astonishing. When you go through Twitch channels, you will see literally anything from people imitating others to those attempting to sing, the third lot doing cosplay, to professional esports players and great entertainers, people who are really absolutely perfectly geared for stand-up comedy or indeed broadcasting in general. So that tells you the opportunity is there. The opportunity is accessible to everyone, and content creation is easily acquired. The other problem that occurs, as it is so easily accessible to everyone, I mean, theoretically, somebody having just a mobile phone could be a wonderful content creator on Twitch. You don't need a PC or anything else. They can be streaming and recording directly through the mobile. And if, for instance, they do a channel that's similar to Awkward Travels, if you're familiar with it, they won a couple of awards in recent years as well for the content. They just wanted to combine their passion for traveling with live streaming, and it worked. Obviously, they're a sponsored couple, and there was some external input in there, but they'll have to use mobile phone and mobile operators networks. Someone needs to pay for that, right? It's very expensive if you're streaming, and but that was made possible. So something just like a basic idea, combining what we love doing the best, traveling around the world, and then making high quality content out of that, and then becoming a streamer and a content creator was previously impossible, because you'd need a camera and do operator, make films and then send them to the lab, etc. Now it's all happening in real time. So I really want to invite everyone, coming back to what I said about Mr. Cummins. He himself said that the difficulties with getting the best photographs and producing high quality work at a time were almost insurmountable, but they kind of got used to it, and the whole idea of them being photographers was first of all combining their passion for social activity, for getting the musicians, being part of certain groups like groupies and followers and fans. In those days were really a bit more randomized and a bit out of control compared to the way things are today. So that was one payback, and the other was that the people doing anything with a band would just cover the cost of film. That's all that they wanted. So if you wanted to have lots of photographs, you had to fork out money to buy maybe 5-6 reels of film, and you would be then shooting. So that was a payback. And then some pocket money coming from newspapers and magazines. Later, as everything rolled in the 80s, there was a bit more of the revenue, but never ever did I personally feel that photographers and media people were appropriately recognized or indeed remunerated for their skill, knowledge and effort, and that still is the case today. There was a period where they were able to get the better level of earnings, or at least some contributions, but yet again with the invention of digital technology that just plummeted, and that's terribly sad. I mean, I know have quite a few contacts within the community, and I think it's probably at its worst ever at present for various reasons. So you can see how interesting this is. We conceptualized previously it was so difficult to get people to own cameras because of the expense and to buy films, and therefore becoming a content creator was very easy. You had a camera, you knew how to do it, and therefore you were taking photographs. Becoming a member of that community and becoming a photographer of a magazine did require knowledge and skill. Let's just not make any assumptions about it. So the best ones would excel, but there were really very, very few numbers. So the competition was not particularly great, right? And their photographs became legendary because guess what? They were the only person there taking photographs of this particular band, and therefore, in due course, as the band became legendary or very well known, everybody was after those early shots, and therefore these are properly archived and preserved, which has been the case with many people. Don't forget, the black and white photography is less susceptible to degeneration compared to color, and if people kept the negatives in good conditions, don't forget high quality films. So that era, Kodak and Fuji, they indeed were producing very high quality emotion and substance that would be lasting for very, very long, and therefore they were able to utilize that in due course. So from being able to access something with such ease, I should say, having a lot of difficulty in acquiring equipment, to become a content creator, and then once you had it, it was easy to make contact because people saw the camera on you. You walked around. You obviously the most wanted man on the scene. Through becoming a member of maybe editorial in a magazine like Enemy, Melody Maker, or Sounds in Britain. Obviously, lots of other magazines elsewhere around the world. To the other extreme, where the technology is easily accessible, people can really immediately get it if they have enough revenue, and sometimes the tech is not particularly expensive. In my instance, I have several smartphones, one better than another, like the Sony Xperia XZ2. I didn't have to pay anything for it. I need to pay my monthly subscription. I've got my regular pricing plan, and that's all I pay for. So therefore, I can obviously do a lot with that one Android smartphone, which would produce high quality content, and it's all down to myself. And I'm really astonished and amazed with the advancements in technology, because A, it's making us more able to do a lot more. We don't have to have the arduous hours, days and months of lab development where things do not really come out right because the chemicals were old, or there was some other issue in there during the processing, or simply we didn't take photographs which are good enough. It's made easier for us, but at the same time we also need to master the skill. But the problem that we face is the sheer competition. It's the number of people out there, and because there are such huge numbers, similar to the influx of new music, films and all other video games and materials, it's very hard for people in the know to be in position, well, first of all, to know what to select. And I talk to people who are working for various broadcasters and saying the quality of stuff we get is just mind-boggling. What do we pursue first? And the reason for kind of the insider views or the insider selection has become a necessity. So you will have certain people tipped off right from the beginning for like big things, and they're being groomed, invested into, and then presented. And that makes the life for everyone in broadcasting a lot easier. You don't have to sift through millions of different tapes, photographs and images. You will know that the industry is behind this person, so they will hit it reasonably big. You don't know whether an audience will respond accordingly, but generally, in view of the marketing and the way things are today, it's unlikely that somebody of that magnitude, people who were selected very early, like Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift or or Katy Perry, just to name a few, that they would fail. It's just their talents have been observed over a longer period of time, and I think the investment turned out to be indeed not in vain. But that is then preventing a huge number of people from elsewhere to come in, because there's just like very few people, and they're being selected very well in advance, and everyone else just can't break through. So as a content creator, I feel privileged to be able to create with such ease, share information, talk to everyone, archive it and have it out there. But for people who want to make it big, or break through the kind of certain thresholds of the industry, the situation today is a lot more difficult and a lot more complex compared to what we had in the past.